Good evening, everyone. I'm John Burt, CEO of Abzena. I'm a biochemist turned an accountant turned entrepreneur, so I'm a jack of all trades. And this evening it's my pleasure to introduce you to the Abzena story, to the extent you're not familiar with Abzena. So what do? If you remember one thing about my presentation, just remember this. We're a picks and shovels business with a royalty on the gold, providing services and technologies to the pharmaceutical industry to enable them to develop better biopharmaceuticals for all of us as potential patients. That's the message. Picks and shovels with a royalty on the gold, making a difference to patients. So we came to the market in July of last year. We raised £20 million and a market cap just shy of £80 million last time I looked. As I say, we provide those services and technologies to our partners. These are pharmaceutical companies, it's a business-to-business model, pharmaceutical companies, and they are biotech companies, public and private, and they're the leading academic research institutions. So we work with all partners who are pursuing good science to create better medicines. Within the Abzena Group, which we actually created in May of last year prior to the IPO, there are two trading brands, Antidote and Polytherix. Those two businesses came together in July 2013, when we merged those two businesses, and we've retained those brands within the Abzena Group because they've got very strong brand recognition to our partners for their particular technology and service offerings. So it's a mixed income model that we have. There's income we receive today for the services we offer. We get paid for the services we offer today for our partners. Simple fee-for-service model. We have a range of complementary services, which I'll come on to, and our customer base includes the majority of the major pharmaceutical companies. So we work here in the UK with AstraZeneca and MedImmune, but our customer base is global. In fact, the majority of our revenue comes from North America, so we work within the global pharmaceutical industry. As well as the fee-for-service revenue, which is the majority of the revenue today, from a value proposition, there's a potential to earn significant royalties through license payments coming on products that incorporate our technologies, which get carried through the development process, the pharmaceutical development process, to the market. We're not funding the development of those products. This is not a high-risk biotech story. Our partners develop those products. It's their products, they fund the development, we embed our technologies in those products, and we have the potential to receive a royalty on the sales of those products. And we have over 30 license and license option agreements in place, several of which cover multiple products. I'll come on to it again later, but there are 6 products already in clinical development, so already progressing through clinical studies, through that process you may be familiar with, where you go through 3 phases of clinical studies to get a new medicine approved. And continue, we're adding further licenses based on our technologies into that portfolio. So there's a portfolio of license agreements which have value and accruing value as we speak without us investing in the development of those products. As you'd expect, therefore, we've got a very substantial intellectual property estate. It's been built up over more than 12 years. That extends to over 20 patent families, more than 100 granted patents in all of the major territories. So we've got a very strong intellectual property position. As I said, there's me at the top, in the middle, you can see me at the back, you can see me there. I'm also joined this evening by Julian Smith over in the corner, so later if there are questions, Julian's our CFO, so I'm a part-time accountant in the past. Julian's a dyed-in-the-wool accountant, a great CFO to have on the team. Our chairman, Ken Cunningham, medic by training, has worked through the pharmaceutical industry in the UK and the US, was formerly the CEO of Sky Pharma. And on the bottom of this slide, you can see our 4 non-executive directors. So we have City Experience from JP Morgan Cazenove in Tony Brampton. We have Peter Grant, who's CEO of another public company in the sector, Sky Pharma. Anke Lundermose is an entrepreneur, works right across the world really in the industry. She's recently joined Mission Therapeutics up in Cambridge as CEO. And Nigel Pitchford is Chief Investment Officer of Imperial Innovations, one of our significant shareholders. And in the middle, 2 further members of the executive management team. Matt Baker is an immunologist. So any questions on the immune system you can throw at me, but I'll be happy to deflect them to Matt, who is here, and was always welcome any visitors to our site in Cambridge that I'll come to. But Matt is an immunologist. He founded the Antidote business, which is part of the group. So he's got a great experience in the biology that we do at the front end of the R&D process. And Sally Waterman has been responsible for taking drugs all the way from preclinical development to the market. So you've got the experience of the full development process. Previously, she was head of R&D at Protheric before the acquisition by KS Biomedics. So we've got depth in the science, we've got experience in the development process. In terms of our shareholders then, we can say we came to the market in July of last year, raising £20 million. We're fortunate to have Invesco come on board in the year previous. So in 2013, we did a private financing round and Invesco came on board. That was both Mark Barnett and Neil Woodford. It was before Neil Woodford left Invesco. Both of them bought into the story and then continued to support the company at the IPO. And so with Invesco and Imperial Innovations, they hold just over 50% of the stock. And then Neil Woodford, having bought into the story and liked the story, and I always enjoy the meetings we have with him. There's always a dialogue. It's great to have a dialogue with your shareholders. A dialogue with Neil led to him participating in the IPO and taking just over 10% of the company. Then we've got VCT and the Advanced Enterprise Innovation Fund, who hold more than 3% of the stock. We then have a long share register that does include many private retail investors who participated in the private rounds within the Polytherics company as EIS investors and have continued to hold their shares, many of them. Some have sold through the IPO and post, but many of them do continue to hold their shares. So we've got a long shareholder register which goes, as I say, from Invesco on one end to many private investors at the other end. In terms of our finances then, summarise this just in one slide, and I won't ask Julian to stand up, I'll trot these through, but any more detailed questions I will ask Julian to answer. So for our half year, and our full year is to March, so the half year H115 was to the 6-month period to the end of September. We reported 2.4 million of revenue. About half of the revenue comes from our immunology service, that's a fee-for-service business, which I'll explain. And the most significant line in terms of growth is conjugation line, which is a lead. I'll come on to what this is. So if you're scratching your head saying, what's he talking about? What's conjugation? I'll come on to it. But that's an indicator for the work we do for our partners before they take a license to the technology. So we get paid for the work we do now before our partners take a license. Okay? So 2.4 million of revenue in the first half of this financial year, and we're guiding to around 5.8 for the full year. The previous year, slightly confusing in the sense that we only consolidated Antidote business within the group for 8 months of that year from August. And so the 3.8 million of revenue is not for a full year for the whole group. We continue to invest in R&D, 1.7 million for the 6 months a year. We're not anticipating the R&D expense to go up considerably. We're not expecting to fund clinical trials ourselves. So we're not a biotech company who's going to come back continually to shareholders saying, we want you to fund another phase of clinical development. That's what our partners do. That's what our partners do with products that incorporate our technologies. So our R&D is based on technology innovation and service innovation. So continuing to be at the forefront of our field and working with our partners and delivering to them the services and technologies that they value. So we combine a profitable service business with the technology development, and so we're not breaking even currently. Going forward, when we do start to receive those royalties from the product, that's when you'll see a step change in the revenues really coming through and just the group moving to profitability. But we're very well funded, having raised 20 million at the IPO. We had 18.7 million in the bank as at the end of September. So our operations, so our customer base is global. We work within the global pharmaceutical industry. Our operations are all in the UK today, primarily in Cambridge. So the Polytherics business was in London, up in Camden. But last summer we moved that business up to Cambridge to be co-located with the Antidote team, to get the benefit of the scientists working together, but really to put ourselves right in the heart of the UK's life sciences cluster. So apologies to anyone who's not from the Cambridge area. Cambridge is where it is really happening in terms of the UK life sciences cluster. And I can say that, I was born there myself. And I'm a Cambridge United supporter if you're interested in football. So we have two buildings on the Babenham campus, slightly old buildings, but we've just announced with Imperial College that they're building a new facility up on the Babenham campus. We're going to be the anchor tenant of that, securing our long-term future on the Babenham campus. at the heart of the life sciences sector. And then we do have a satellite site up in Warwick from an acquisition we made in January 2012 on the University of Warwick Science Park. So within the group, we have scientists who span all the disciplines from immunology, hardcore, hard science, hard biology, immunology, to hardcore polymer chemistry, hard chemistry, big chemistry, and all the disciplines in between without making any judgment about different scientific disciplines. But we actually integrate them all together. If you get a scientist from a big pharma company, as a biologist, they may never speak to a chemist. We integrate them all as one team, so we operate as one team, but we have the two trading brands. So what do we do? So as I said, we've got a mixed business model in terms of services and the license revenues. I always like to say we have a t-shirt slide. If everyone in the company had a t-shirt to represent the business, it would be this slide. So there's the service revenues, where we just get paid for what we do today. We're providing an immunogenicity assessment answers to our partners to a very simple question. Because our focus is on biologic products, so antibodies and protein therapeutics, which is a market which is forecast to grow to $220 billion by 2017. So it's those products, proteins and antibodies, as medicines, not vaccines. So a vaccine, when you give it to a patient, you want to generate an immune response. That's exactly what you want to do with a vaccine. That's not what you want to do with a therapeutic protein. You don't want your body to generate an immune reaction to that drug, because what that will do is neutralise the activity of the drug. It could lead it to be cleared from your body more quickly, and in the worst case, you'll get an allergic reaction. So if you're a pharmaceutical company developing a new medicine, you'd rather know that before you start in clinical trials, before you start wasting investors' money on clinical trials with a product which may generate an immune response. So we can answer that question before you start clinical studies. So that's the immunogenicity assessment. Will this product generate an unwanted immune response? And if it does, you can do something about it. You can select an alternative, or you can re-engineer that. And so we have the capability not only to tell our partners if they've got a problem, but also to provide a solution in terms of protein engineering, which is changing the structure of the protein. That's all it means, it's changing the structure of the protein or the antibody so it's non-immunogenic, so it doesn't generate an unwanted immune response. If you're producing a protein or an antibody as a medicine, large-scale manufacturing is not chemistry, it's biology, it's produced from living cells, and you need to have a well-characterized cell line. You're growing these cells to produce the protein, to produce the antibody. And that's what cell line development is. It's producing a well-characterized cell line to use in a manufacturing environment. So we do that for our partners on a fee-for-service basis. Then with proteins, we can re-engineer and we can conjugate. Conjugate is glue. It's attaching. So we can attach something to a protein. It can be attaching a polymer so that when it's circulating in the bloodstream, it doesn't get cleared out of the kidneys so quickly. So you can reduce the frequency of injection. Or, if you've got an antibody which targets a tumour, a cancer tumour, an antibody, such as Herceptin, which you may have heard of, the breast cancer drug from Roche, you can attach onto that a chemotherapy drug. You can therefore use a more potent drug, target it to the tumour, and get targeted cancer therapy. Very timely, this is the centenary of Paul Ehrlich's death in 2015. He was the guy who coined the term, the magic bullet. Antibody drug conjugates are the magic bullets for cancer therapy. And I'll come on to our technologies. But those technologies, and we have a portfolio therefore of technologies, have the potential to deliver to us license revenues. The royalty on the gold. So at the top, the picks and shovels, at the bottom, the royalty on the gold. I mentioned the immunogenicity assessment, and apologies to you will get the handouts later, so there's a couple of names on this slide. Bill Gates is involved with a series name, but these are data points relating to real drugs. So that's Bill Gates' fault, not mine, and not Graham's fault at the back either. So the results we generate for our partners in terms of does this drug have the potential to generate an immune response? You really want that data to be predictive and correlate with what happens in the clinic. If you're making a critical investment decision as a pharmaceutical company, you want to have confidence in the data. And our results, which are shown here on the y-axis of the graph, correlate with what's seen in clinical studies with drugs which do generate an immune response, such as alemtuzumab on the top right, which is an antibody, one of the first generation of antibodies discovered at the University of Cambridge Pathology Department, or products which are known to be less immunogenic. So we have that correlation. That's really valuable. That's why our clients come back to us time and time again. We have a very significant level of repeat business from the major pharma companies because they have confidence in the data we generate. And I said we can re-engineer the antibodies. So we can re-engineer antibodies to make them non-immunogenic. So these proteins, when they go into patients, won't generate an unwanted immune response. We do that for our partners. It's their product. They carry it forward in development based with our technology. And there's 6 of those in the clinic. 4 of those, so 3 of them are in phase 2 studies, so the mid-phase of the clinical development process. 3 of them are in phase 1, although this 4th one, Gilead Sciences GS5745, they've said that that's progressing now towards phase 2. And these products are being developed for a whole range of different indications. We're not focused on a particular medical condition, a whole range of indications. So NASH at the top, non-alcoholic steatohepatitis, complicated long word, associated with fatty liver disease, potentially 20% of the US population associated with diabetes and obesity. It's a very significant potential indication. That's one of the indications being pursued by Gilead for simtuzumab, this product at the top here. So if we were to earn royalties on these products, and these are potential blockbuster products, then those royalties come to us at 100% margin, will flow top line straight to bottom line as well. And as a reminder, we've got 30 license and license option agreements. So these are the most advanced, the 6 in the clinic. So there's a full range of indications. So NASH I mentioned, pulmonary fibrosis, PSC is primary sclerosing cholangitis, where the only treatment today is liver transplant. You've got sickle cell disease, an orphan indication being pursued, where again there are very limited treatment options being pursued by the NKT Therapeutics. And Adheron Therapeutics pursuing multiple different indications because they focus on the biology with these products. So there are many, many patients who can benefit from these products, and we can benefit from the way we bake our technology into these products. Come back to antibody drug conjugates. So these are the magic bullets. So it's a very simple concept. A magic bullet to treat cancer, to kill the tumour cell. But they're complex products because there's really multiple components to the product and it's a multiple mechanism of action. You have an antibody, which after administration to the patient gets targeted to the tumour. Circulating the bloodstream gets targeted to the tumour. That's what the antibody does. Attached to that, a drug. So here, that's an antibody, typical Y-shaped antibody, and you attach to it the drug. Very potent, toxic molecule. Too toxic to be used on its own, but can be used when you combine it with an antibody to get the targeting. And what happens, the antibody binds onto the tumour cell, and then it gets internalized into the tumour cell, the drug's released, and then it kills, a process called apoptosis, which is cell death. It kills the tumour from the inside. It kills each of those tumour cells from the inside. So it's targeted cancer therapy, and targeted for the particular patient because of the particular markers for which the antibody addresses. So our technology in the antibody drug conjugate space, as I said, we provide a technology to enable our partners to develop a better product. So our technology, so our typical partners come to us, they've worked on the disease biology and understand the targets on the tumour cell, they've got the antibody, and so our customers are the pharma and biotech companies. We have the linker, the glue, with which you make the antibody drug conjugate. Because if you're going to build a product, a complex product like this, what do you want? You want a process which is efficient. You want a process which gives you a homogeneous product, a uniform product. You want a product that's stable, so when it's circulating in your bloodstream, the drug doesn't fall off, because then you're going to see all the toxicities. You want it stable until it gets to the tumour. So our technology, our ThioBridge technology, provides all of that. And we can work with a range of different drugs, different chemotherapy drugs appropriate for different cancer types. And we've got collaborations in place so we can provide that access to those different drugs. I call it the smorgasbord of our ADC offering. And then we work with pharma and biotech companies to provide this offering. Our technology therefore gets baked into products going forward. So we've got a number of programs now in the early stages of the research and development process, not yet progressed to clinic, but early stages of the research process, with the potential to deliver us significant license revenues in the future. But just to illustrate the value of our technology, I just wanted to put this data up, and don't get too confused, it's very, very simple. There are 2 antibody-drug conjugate products that are currently approved. One from Seattle Genetics for Hodgkin's lymphoma, one from Roche breast cancer. Okay? We've taken those same antibodies and used our Firebridge technology to create antibody-drug conjugates. And we take those into cancer models. So these are animal models with cancer. And the tumour, and this basically, these 2 graphs measure the growth of the tumour. The grey line is with no treatment. The pink line is on the right here with Roche's product, Kadcyla, and on the left, Seattle Genetics product, Adcetris. And the green line shows you what we do to the tumour with our Firebridge antibody-drug conjugates. So in this case, we're completely eliminating the tumour, which the Roche product doesn't do. In this case, you're seeing significant suppression of tumour growth, significantly greater than this Adcetris product, which is approved for Hodgkin's lymphoma, as I said. So we've got a technology using the same antibody which creates better products. So what did I say we do? We enable better biopharmaceuticals. And within the group, therefore, we've got the capability with the antitope side, with antibody generation, antibody humanization, engineering, and manufacturing side, combined with the chemistry on the polytheric side, to produce antibody-drug conjugates with the chemistry and different payloads. So one of our advantages as we grow as a business is having a broader scientific offering to integrate different technologies to provide a more complete solution to our partners. So then to summarise, from an investment proposition, what are you looking at? I said we're a picks and shovels business with a royalty on the gold. So we've got service revenues, significant repeat business from a very broad and strong customer base, with very healthy gross profit margins on the service business. So a profitable service business, we're looking to continue to expand that offering, to really do more to help our partners go from lab bench into clinical development. There's the future revenue will come from technology licenses. But as I say, we're not investing in the development of those products. They're our partners' products. They use our technologies embedded inside. Sometimes in the past I called it the Intel Inside model. And then there's a step change that can come through further acquisitions. We've executed 2 acquisitions, we've grown the Abzena Group through to the IPO, and we're still continuing to pursue further opportunities. We've identified opportunities to continue to grow the business, because our commitment is to enable better biopharmaceuticals for our partners, for patients, for yourselves. Happy to take any questions.
Any questions, anybody?
You didn't mention any competitors you have in the business. Could you explain some of the competition in that market?
Yeah, so each of our technology domains has its own competitors. But if you take the business as a whole, one of the advantages we've got, and one benefit from a customer perspective, is engaging with the customer who's got a more complete offering. But the group as a whole, then Lonza, who are a major international industrial group, have a significant manufacturing business. Part of their business competes pretty much with most of our technology domains, but without the proprietary technologies and the expertise. Within the individual technology domains, so they're the best example of a competitor for the whole group. Within each technology domain, there are competitors. So on the immunogenicity assessment side, for example, there's a husband and wife team in Oxford. There's a similar academic group on Rhode Island in the US. Lonza have got a small group that do that service. But the benefit we have is the expertise in terms of the immunology. We don't just provide the results, we provide analysis and help design those studies. So there's the expertise in the immunology group led by Matt Baker. In the antibody-drug conjugate field, there are a number of technology providers. I mentioned Seattle Genetics. They came to this industry as a technology provider, and they've morphed into being a product development company themselves. They're first-generation technology, and in any technology field, you always find that the first-generation technology are okay, those products are being improved and patients are benefiting from them, but you learn about the weaknesses. So there's companies like Seattle Genetics, Ambrex in San Diego, there's a UCL spin-out, you've got an academic, a postdoc, and a patent application. So there are a number of competitors. So yeah, there are competitors, and I could go on all night on some of who they are.
Just wanted to get an idea. Just wanted to get an idea of the 6 license, the license portfolio in general, but the 600 clinical trials. When and sort of by how much do you think they could eclipse the revenues of the service fees? Or put another way, when can they allow you to break even?
The analysts' forecasts indicate royalties either starting in 2018, 2019, and as they start coming through, that transforms into a break-even profitability. 2018, 2019. Now, just to clarify that, of course, we could control that because our R&D investment is about the sustainable future for the growth, for the group. So, if we stop doing any R&D, it would be a profitable service business today, and would still have all of the value of those licenses. So, it's a very explicit decision we made to invest in technology development to maintain the business for the long-term future, rather than just saying we've got one technology, we'll sell that technology, and once we've harvested that once, there is no future. And that's where the investors who bought into us, through the private rounds and through the IPO, understood this is building a sustainable technology and service provider to the biopharmaceutical sector.
How would you describe your innovation strategy? How do you decide on the new territories you're going to innovate in?
So, I mean, some of it has come from the heritage of the business. The Polytherics business was built on conjugation and chemistry being applied initially into the polymer attachment and then into the antibody drug conjugate field because there was a clear need and a benefit being seen. So it's the scientists who know what's happening in the community in terms of new technologies being developed and the needs from our partners, our scientific partners, what they need, what they're in terms of the technologies. So it comes from that essentially being part of the scientific community drives the steps we go into. In terms of our acquisition opportunity, it's looking at where there is already traction. If you've got technology that's already got traction, commercial traction, then there's that validation. And then the big question is is it complementary to what we're already doing? Because I came from the Polytheric side, when we merged with Antitope, very much the antibody engineering was very much complementary to what we could do in the Polytheric side with the chemistry. So it's understanding the needs of our partners and what they need to develop better products and providing either through acquisition or through our internal investment in the service development, technology development, better solutions for them. With a view, the value proposition being to get a technology which gets embedded into the product and therefore gives us the license revenues of the future.
You raised a lot of cash at the IPO, which you mentioned you used on acquisitions. Do you believe you've got enough cash to see you through to being cash flow positive?
We wouldn't necessarily have to raise more cash to take us through to cash flow positivity, although I can't commit that we wouldn't raise cash because of the acquisition strategy and also because of the investment we make in R&D, but we wouldn't have to raise money on basically the current forecast.
Just to find out exactly how big is your a bit of a sickle cell. You mentioned something about sickle cell. Will you explain more about it? And how big is your market in that area?
So we don't have a market in sickle cell disease. Our partner, NKT Therapeutics, who are a US company, are developing a product for sickle cell disease. So they're developing the product. We have a potential royalty on their product. When they develop that, complete development, so they've done one phase 1 clinical study so far. When they take that through, if it passes through all the clinical studies, there's a very significant opportunity. To actually quantify that is quite hard because a lot of it's dependent on their own pricing assumptions, and we don't have the visibility on their assumptions for the market size. But it's safe to assume most pharmaceutical products are not sub $1 million in terms of annual revenue.
Last question.
Yes, just a quickie. It looks like you're sitting on this wonderful cash pile, which allows you to have a wonderful cushion for between now and 2019. Is that possibly the magic year when your negative cash flow will turn neutral? Or will you be somehow acquiring new clients to improve revenues in order to change that negative?
So we're always looking to grow the service business with the profit margin on the service business that contributes, because the fixed cost base in terms of the overhead and the R&D investment is not significantly expected. So as we can grow that service revenue, then that can accelerate the time when we can move to cash flow positivity. We won't give a commitment to doing that. Now, in terms of the acquisitions that we're going to pursue, we're pursuing acquisitions which are, with our business model, complementary services and licenses. So there are businesses which have both, and there are businesses that have one or the other. And so if we buy a profitable service business, then that will make an earlier contribution to the business. If it's a longer term technology play with a long term value, then that's not going to make an immediate difference to the cash flow break-even question. But we're pursuing opportunities to maintain the mix in the business, because having the service business unlocks the client relationships, and therefore we get that relationship with our partners, and it gives us a solid operating business on which the royalty on the gold sits. Picks and shovels and the royalty.